So I have another kind of problem, I think. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try to figure it out. And I believe there are two 60-gallon stainless steel tanks on this boat for fresh water. And one's on the starboard side under the main settee in here in the main cabin. And the other one's on the other side, the port side, under the settee. So 60-gallon tank and another 60-gallon tank, stainless steel. And so that's 120 gallons of fresh water storage on this boat. And it's kind of strange because I fill them up and they don't last very long, and they're not leaking because they'd leak into the bottom of my boat in the bilge. And if I turn my bilge pump on, water would come out through the bilge pump, but it doesn't. So they're not. I know they're not leaking. So I'm thinking, why are these tanks that are 120 gallons of water, why are they running out so fast? And they seem to fill up pretty fast too. So I was noticing running my faucet in my galley sink that it has a little aerator and a screen on the nozzle. And when I first bought the boat, it was working great. Not a problem. And then over time, a very short period of time, that nozzle started squirting water in every direction. And so I figured, well, it must be scale, which is hard water deposits in the water. And it's clogging up the faucet screen. And so I took it off, and sure enough, it was full of scale. I mean, just loaded up. So I cleaned it out, and it worked good for a while, and then it did it again. And I cleaned it out, and it does it again. So, matter of fact, I'll go ahead and I'll turn the faucet on. I'll take a look and see if it does it now. I cleaned it recently, so it may not be too bad. Okay, so I'm going to turn the water on. And that's not bad. See, you can see it's starting to squirt out the side. Sometimes it just squirts straight out, gets everything wet. See, it just did it there. And it's not too bad, but it does look clogged to me, because normally the water flow would be straight down and real nice. There you go. See that? See how it's squirting out? So there's scale in this thing. So let's take it apart, see if I can get this pulled off here. And we'll see how much stuff's in here. Oh, look at that. It is full of scale. It's, yeah, I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can get a tighter shot here. Hopefully you can see that. So there's all these little grains of scale, also referred to as lime. So what I'm thinking is that my freshwater tanks may be limed up and full of scale. This boat was built in 1975, and so that's like, oh damn, 50 years ago. Yeah, so it looks like my tanks must be scaled up. So that would explain why I put what appears to be 120 gallons of water in this boat, fresh water in those two tanks. And it's not lasting very long. I work on coffee brewing equipment and commercial equipment, and scale's an interesting thing. It depends on where you're getting your water. So, it's mainly from well water. And so different cities, because the company I work for, we service the whole Bay Area and Sacramento area. And so I work on all different kinds of brewing equipment, from huge, big commercial units to very small personal household type of units. And Some of the brewers will have a fresh water tank, so the water goes into this tank first, and either it's plumbed in through a water line, or it's pour over where you just fill up a container from your faucet and pour it into the coffee brewer. And what happens mainly when the ones are plumbed in, because they're just constantly running, usually they're higher capacity machines with higher use. You know, a lot of businesses have them. Their employees or customers will use them a lot. So, but some of them will have a cold tank, and then they'll have hot tanks to heat the water. And sometimes, and this is really strange, it depends on what city and where the water supply is coming from. Some places aren't bad, other places are really bad. And so sometimes that cold water tank will fill up with scale. I mean, just fill up. But the hot tanks on that same unit won't get any scale on them. Other times, the cold tank will look totally clean, no scale, but the hot tanks will be scaled up really bad. And when I remove a hot tank, sometimes I tried to descale it. There's descaling agent that we add into the water and rinse the machine out, flush it out with it, and we circulate the water through and get it hot and just keep it circulating, and eventually it cleans it out. Not always, but it depends. Depends on the scale and how bad it is. Sometimes I just have to replace the hot tanks, and one of the units I work on has these little stainless steel hot tanks. Two of them has a pre-tank and a main tank, and they're only about as big as a coffee cup. And they'll get so scaled up. They're made out of stainless steel, and normally they're real light. And they'll get so scaled up that it's unbelievable how heavy they are. And then the whole system's clogged up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try this, and I don't know if it's going to work. I'm hoping it's going to work, but I have an endoscope here with a light on it. And so this is a camera, and it's got a long 100, I think it's about 100 feet of cable here. And I'm going to put it down into one of my freshwater tanks. So I'm going to do that now. And I have my laptop computer out here, so I can see right now. I'm looking at this camera, what the camera's looking at. And we'll run this down into the water tank and hopefully get it down in there far enough, and hopefully the light's bright enough and the resolution's good enough. I can see if there's any scale in these tanks. Another thing is this boat, you know, I'm a liveaboard, so I got quite a bit of stuff on here, and I'm floating right at the water line, which means this boat, I really can't add much more weight to it. And so when I get my water tanks full and everything, it's right at the water line, and that just doesn't seem right to me. It seems to me like this boat should have more carrying capacity. So it could be that these water tanks are full of scale and it's real heavy, and that could be weighting my boat down. So I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with this if they're scaled up. There are tank cleaning solutions for boats, and so I'll have to look into that and see what I can do. But so next I'm going to go ahead and run this endoscope down into one of the tanks. So I'll start with the starboard tank, and it's nice and shady on that side of the boat right now, so I'll be able to hopefully see my computer screen pretty good. And then I might check the other side. I'm sure if it's in one side, it's going to be the same on the other side. So let's give it a try, see what happens. I have a special tool here for opening up the fill cap, which are out on the deck on each side. Okay, well, I just can't get the camera down in there, either side. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to remove the cushions and get down into where the tank is. I'll feed the endoscope into the stainless water tank that way, and I'm sure I can get it in there that way. So that's what I'm going to have to do next. Okay, here's the stainless steel freshwater tank, and center my settee here. So it's pretty big. I think they're 60 gallons each, so there's one on each side of the boat. And this one was easier to get to than the other side because I got a bunch of stuff piled up over there. Okay, so there's two hoses down there, and the bigger one, it's hard to see. It looks black, but it's actually, I think, green. And that's the water fill hose. And the other smaller hose is a vent tube, because when you put water into a sealed tank, air has to come out somehow. So it goes back out that vent tube, and that way it doesn't come bubbling back up out of the filler tube. So the filler tube, the bigger tube, I'm going to remove, and then I'm going to go ahead and insert the endoscope down inside the tank to see what's down in the bottom. Okay, so this is my freshwater tank. It's 60 gallons, I believe, and I have two of them, one on the port side and one on the starboard, and they're underneath the settees in the main cabin, the saloon. So what I have here is I have this big hose. That's the filler hose, and that's how you fill the tank up. And then this other small hose is a vent tube, because when you fill up a sealed tank like this, you have to displace, the air gets displaced out of the tank as the tank fills up with water. So the vent tube is to let the air back out as you're filling, at the same time you're filling the tank. So I'm going to remove the filler tube, the big tube, and she's got, whoa, stainless steel tanks are noisy. You should hear them when I'm filling them up. Okay, so I just got one hose clamp I have to remove here. Yeah, when I fill them up with water, they pop and make a lot of really loud noises. Kind of startling. So I don't know how tight this tube is on here, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll be able to remove it quite easily. Maybe, I'm hoping. I just don't want to drop this hose clamp down in the bilge. Okay, if I can twist it, I should be able to get it. Oh man, it goes in there a long ways. I hope I don't have to get into the cabinet to move it. Yeah, it's a long one. I may. Oh man, this is not going to be easy. I may not get this. It's always, nothing's easy on a boat. So this stainless tube goes all the way back into here. And the problem is I may have to unhook it at the top, at the filler cap that's up on the deck where it connects to that. Wow, see what I mean? These things are noisy. So I'm gonna see if I can just continue to push on this until I get it loose. It might be easier to go through this vent tube. I may have to do that. It may just be easier to do that because I'm sure I can get this vent tube off easily. I'm going to try that. It's moving. I go back and forth. It's going. I got it. It's going to go. Wow. That's really weird. There was air pressure in here. And that is really strange. I wouldn't know why there would be pressure in there. Okay, I didn't drop the hose clamps. Let's put it in a safe place. There. Okay, now I'm going to start the recorder on the endoscope and put it in and see what we can see. Okay, so let's go ahead and feed it into the vent tube entrance inlet. And see what we can see. It should fit right in here, I'm hoping. Is it going to go? No, it's not going to go. The weld is in the way. So the vent tube, looks like I'm not going to be able to get this endoscope down in there. Can I see anything on the screen? Nothing. Okay, nothing's easy on a boat. That's not going to work. Because of the weld, right here where this tube's welded into the tank, it's smaller diameter. So that means I'm definitely going to have to go in through this big tube, which means I'm probably going to have to take everything out of this cabinet and unhook this tube up on the top to get it loose. Let me see if I can work it loose here again. I don't think so. There's not enough room for it to move out of the way. Yep, I'm going to have to empty out this cabinet. Oh, this is it. That's it. That's all I needed. I'm going to get it now. There it is. All of that just to do that. Okay, now I think I'm still recording with the endoscope. Let me see and check my software. And it looks like it's still going. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put the endoscope in, and now it should go right in the tank, no problem. Problem is that with the endoscope, you can't tell which way's up with the scope. Okay, now the scope's going into the tank. I'm just going to feed it all the way till it goes down into the bottom of the tank, and we can maybe see. I can see on my screen if I can see anything. And no, it's all black. I can't see anything, even though the light's on the endoscope. So I'm just going to keep feeding it in, and maybe it'll find its way to the bottom. That's where I can see something. I still can't see anything. Well, what I need to do, I think, is I'm going to need to put some kind of weight on the end of this endoscope. So see if I can get it to the bottom of the tank, because I think it's floating is what's going on here. So what I'm going to do, I guess I'll just go ahead and pull it back out. It's going to be all wet now. Maybe as I pull it back, I can see if I can see something. Oh, there's something. But it's so out of focus, I can't tell what I'm seeing. I wonder if there's a focus adjustment on this thing. On the lens, let me pull it out and see what I can see. Okay, now it's getting hung up. Watch me not be able to get this endoscope out of here now. I don't believe it, it's hung up. Come on. There it goes. Okay, let's see. Can I focus this thing? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zip tie this little bolt here to the cable and see if that's going to be enough weight to weight it down and get it to sink. Now it's got some ballast on it, so it should sink. So you can see got the bolt zip tied to it. And when I pull it back out, if it gets caught, it's not going to come loose. I'm not going to lose anything in the tank. So let's give it another try and see what we see. Okay, it looks like I'm seeing the bottom of the tank, and I don't see any scale. It looks like kind of like just clean stainless steel, but I can't see. Let me see if I can do this. But if I can hear it sliding on clean stainless, which sounds like that's what it's doing, then that means there's no scale or very little. If there was scale on the bottom, it'd be like dragging it through sand. That could be another way I can find out. I have a faucet down here handle, and so I can turn the tank off. Problem is, I don't want to loosen any of this because I don't want it to start leaking, and it's all copper and it's copper fittings, and once you loosen those things, you really need to replace them. And it's not leaking, and I don't want it to leak, so I think if there was a lot of scale in the tank, that the outlet tube here would get clogged and I wouldn't be able to get any water out of the tank. I can see the bottom now, and I don't really see any scale. I see a little specks of stuff, but that's probably just the tank itself. Okay, I'm definitely seeing the bottom of the tank. Now, I don't know if it's all the way in the bottom, but that looks clean. And I don't, like I said, this endoscope with that little bolt on there, I'm hearing it clean against the bottom of the tank, and all I hear is clean metal. If there's scale down there, it'd be like sand, and it wouldn't be making any metallic sound at all. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'm just going to go ahead and slowly pull this back out, and that's it. I think I'm okay. I don't think it's what I thought it was going to be, which is good news. I think I would have noticed if it was scaled up bad by now. Okay, so this is my this is a locker here. I emptied all my stuff out of it. I have bags of stuff piled up in here, and but normally this is a hanging locker for hanging clothes up. You can see it's got this pipe here, so you can hang clothes hangers on here and hang clothing in here. But yeah, I don't use it for that, so I just got to tighten this hose clamp up here on top, and then I'll be done. Okay, that's tight. Now I'm just going to leave this like it is, and I'm going to go out and put water in the tank and fill it up. And I'll fill this whole tube up full of water all the way till it's gushing out of the top at the deck, and then we'll see if water's leaking out. Okay, you can hear the water coming out of the vent tube. You can hear water in the vent tube, actually. So the vent tube, as you can see, there's a loop in it, and that's what you want. So the water comes up from the air comes out of the vent, out of the tank as it's filling up. The air has to escape out somehow. So it comes up. The air comes out of the vent tube and goes up, and a little water and moisture will go up the vent tube as well. So the reason you want that loop there is to trap any water in the low part of the loop. And you can see the I think you can see the water in the loop there at the bottom, and that's what's making the noise. You can hear that popping sound. That's the water moving around in there with the air going through. And you can see a little bit of moisture on the vent tube. So yeah, the vent tube moisture will get back out of the top of that vent tube and come back down into this cabinet a little bit. It don't look too bad. It's not like dripping straight down on anything, so it's not enough to worry about. Now when this tank fills up completely, and this tank is connected to the tank on the other side of the boat with a hose, and there's a valve that you can shut the tanks off and isolate them separately. But normally when you're at anchor in a marina, you'll want both tanks open together, connected together. So when you fill up one side, the water, once this tank's full, the water will start running into the other tank on the other side. But the main reason for that is when you're not filling up, but when you're using the water out of the tanks, and your water pump's pumping water out of the tanks for your galley faucet or the faucet in the head, the sink in the head, you're running water, brushing your teeth or whatever you're doing, or washing dishes in the galley. You draw out of both tanks at the same time. That keeps the boat level. If you draw out of one side and tank, and you have the two tanks shut off, the hose in between the two tanks shut down, what'll happen is you'll only draw out of one tank. And the way my pump's set up, I think it draws out of this tank here on the port side. So what'll happen is my boat will start leaning to starboard because the weight of the water in the other tank's not drawing out. You could put a pump in between the two tanks, and if they're like half full, pump it into the other side of the boat, and then basically what you'd do is you'd fill one tank up full of water, the other tank would be empty, and that actually would create water ballast. So when you're sailing, you could actually level the boat out a little bit like that. But you'd have to have both tanks would have to be half full to do that. And normally when you're cruising, you're going to want your water tanks as full as possible. It sounds to me like this is full. It's running out over outside. I can hear it trickling down outside of the boat. I don't see any leaks on the filler hose up above, and I don't know if there's any here down on the bottom. I'm going to have to use my hand down here and see if I can feel any leaks. But I can feel the tank under my foot where I'm sitting on top of this tank here. It's puffed up from water pressure. Whoops, see? And let me just feel under here and see if this is leaking at all. Get this zoomed in here, focused. Okay, put my hand under here. No, it's totally dry, no leaks. So this ain't leaking. The filler tube is not leaking. And you can hear the air stopped going through the filler tube. There's a little water in the bottom of the filler tube here in the loop, but no water's coming out of the top. Oh, I can see it coming up. I don't know if you can see it, but right here, it's coming up, it's coming up, it's coming up. So I'm going to go outside and pull the hose out, but I have no leaks. Let me feel up here and see if I can feel any leaks up here before we start getting water coming out of this filler hose. So that's where I was getting leaks. That filler hose, that air, not the filler hose, the air vent hose has got water going in and out. It's working its way up. And eventually what's going to happen is it's going to start pouring out inside this cabin. So I'm going to got to get out there quick. And I got so much crap in my way. And get that hose out of there. You can see the water coming out. It's pouring over. Going out the scupper and over the side of the boat. So I'm going to pull this out now. And there. Just set it here for now. Now, as you can see, that's definitely full. So now I'm going to go ahead and shut the water off. Actually, I'll put water in the other tank on the other side too. It works its way over to the other side, but it won't fill it all the way up from one side. You got to do both sides. There's always a crow squawking around here all the time. There's a bunch of them. I don't mind. I used to live on a farm, so it reminds me of when I was on the farm. And I loved living on the farm. But I like living on a boat too. So it's been the best of both worlds for me. So at any rate, what I thought was going to be a real quick, easy video to find out if I had scale in my water tanks by putting an endoscope down through the filler hole into the tank. I thought it would take, just a very short time to do that. And it ended up took days. Before I got it figured all out and got it done. I couldn't get earlier in the video you saw, I couldn't get the endoscope all the way into the tank from the filler hole outside. And then so I had to go directly into the tank inside the boat, which ended up being a lot of work because I had a lot of stuff stored on top of the tank that was underneath the cushions, and then behind my cushions, the way the back of the cushion on my settee is, I got stuff stored back there. And I couldn't get the filler hose off the tank, so I had to empty out a hanging locker that I had stuff piled in to be able to move the hose enough to get it off the tank. And then once I got the endoscope into the tank, I really couldn't see much. I'm gonna have to go through the endoscope video and see if I could find some parts where I could actually see something. Unfortunately, while I was feeding the endoscope into the tank, my laptop computer was kind of behind me, and I have it set up to where I don't really move it, and so it was almost impossible for me to move the endoscope and look at the screen at the same time. So I might find some areas on the video that show I can actually see into the tank, in certain parts of the video. So, but in the end, I don't think that the tanks have scale in them. From what I could see with the endoscope, it didn't appear to be any. Also, the sound of the endoscope sliding on the bottom of the stainless steel tank, it just sounded like it was metal to metal. And if there's scale in there, it'd be like sand. And so I wouldn't hear the sound of metal scraping against metal. And I didn't see any signs of any scale. So that's all good news. So I think I'm okay there. I don't know why the water in these tanks I use it up really fast, and it seems like you know, I just use a little water here and there, and next thing I know, the tanks are empty and they're not leaking. So I'm just going to have to, you know, if I'm out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, I'm going to have to be real careful on how much water I use. Hopefully, I'm going to have a water maker on board by then, and be able to turn salt water into fresh drinking water, and because I'll definitely need that. I mean, you can get by with 120 gallons. I think they're 260-gallon tanks. You can go quite a long ways, but you know, you got to be real careful. Like washing dishes is just getting a sponge wet and not soaking the dishes in a big sink full of water. You just got to conserve. So in the end, I think everything turned out good, and it was a lot of work for pretty much nothing. But it's good to know that at least I know the tanks aren't full of scale. I was worried they're going to be full up because, like I said, I work on commercial coffee brewing equipment, and depending on what city that brewer was at that I'm working on at the time, the equipment gets sent back to me at the shop, and I have a shop where I work on them. Sometimes the coffee brewers don't have any scale at all, and sometimes they're full, and I mean full of scale. And it depends on the water supply and what town the coffee brewer's at. So some cities have a lot of hard water deposits in their water, and other cities don't. And so this boat's been here in the Bay Area for most of its life. I think it was on the Delta originally. And but the strange thing is my faucet, when I run water in my sink in the galley, the little screen gets clogged up with scale constantly. And that's why I was thinking there must be a lot of scale in the tanks, but I don't see it. So evidently that scale is just working its way through the water system and getting pushed up into the faucet nozzle. But I have to clean it out, you know, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, which seems like a lot. And if I don't clean it out, water instead of coming straight out of the faucet starts squirting out and getting my getting my countertops all wet. And if I got food sitting there, then the food's getting wet. And so that's why I went ahead and made this video. So if this video was helpful or entertaining, please like and subscribe.